It actually started during COVID, surprisingly, where suddenly everybody's life changed. And we basically said, let's start a GIMI think tank for COVID-19. And what are the solutions for getting businesses back up and running? What are the innovations globally? How do we share ideas? And it was a very powerful community that was created from it. That community has then morphed, of course. COVID is now to a large extent behind us, even though it's part of our life now, it's everywhere. But the crisis is not there. So GIMI think tank gets together every single week to talk about one of three things. And we talk about trends. What are the big trends that are happening in the world, whether it's Industry 4.0, whether it's robotics, whether it's nanotechnology, CRISPR, whether it's AI, whether it's the metaverse, things are happening. And we want to pay attention to what those trends are, because those who know the trends can predict the future. And those who can predict the future can imagine it, and then they can actually create the future that we desire. So trends are foundational for innovation, and we want all of us to be paying attention to that. We also pay attention to innovation management. Innovation management is techniques on how to drive ideas to commercialization, whether there's an individual, whether there's a team, whether there's an organization, whether there's a government. And so we need systems, innovation management systems, that allows us to move faster, quicker, and by having a common language, a common framework, common tools. And that is the core part of what GIMI is, the Global Innovation Management Institute, is to be a leader in driving thought leadership in innovation management. The third part is we like to know what's going on in different countries. And we would like to know what's happening in Japan, or what's happening in Brazil, what's happening in Switzerland, what's happening in Australia, for that matter. And that's who we are. Our mission as GIMI is actually to democratize innovation worldwide. And we want to make sure that we create a common language, common framework. And by doing that, we liberate the creativity of all people to be able to attack all the challenges which we're going to face as a society, and to solve them quickly, so that we continue having a prosperous and a joyous, joyful, happy world. And that's the mission of GIMI, democratizing innovation worldwide. Right? And the way we do this is through partners like you who have joined us, ambassadors like you who spread the message and saying the time has come for a common language, common framework for innovation. And let's build a community around this thing and really drive it, whether at the government level, whether at the Fortune 5,000 companies level, whether at the SME level, small businesses, or whether in universities as professors. But let's spread the common language, common framework message, so that we can all talk to each other like how we are talking right now. English is a common language that allows us to collaborate and interact freely, fast around the world. Okay. So I think it will be nice for us to kind of review what we did last year, and for many of you to see what GIMI has been doing. And I would like Irila and Laura and Larissa, who have put this video together, to kind of summarize some of the nice, interesting things that's been going on around the world that GIMI has been driving. So first, with that, Irila, if you'd like to share who we are. While we're doing that, Laura, if you don't mind, feel free to send to everybody who's part of the GIMI think tank the background that we use, so that we can create a common look and feel for everything that we have. Okay? So please, Irila or somebody, share the video. I'm sorry, there's no sound. There you go, we got sound. That's great, Irila, Laura. It's always nice to see a video like this, which summarizes many things. Cristanto has always said, where is all these materials of all the things we do? When you see it in summary over a whole year, it's quite impressive, what has happened. And what has happened, so everybody understands fully on this audience, is it's a small group of people here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who are driving the standards bodies around the topic that we're doing. But we're using a network of people who are then multiplying their efforts and using a virtual networks by which we grow rapidly. So this is the company, the future organizations. It's not command control, but really virtual organizations where different people take lead and drive things forward. And we trust them because we have got some common rules, common values, common ways of thinking and acting that allows us to do what we have to do. So first of all, congratulations to the GIMI team. Congratulations to the GIMI network. Congratulations to all the people who have been in the think tank driving this initiatives. Thanks for doing this, because I think compared to the year before, this was a remarkable year. Now, the challenge is thrown out to all of you. What are we going to do this year? What are we going to do which is 10 times more, 10 times bigger? How do we make sure we get another? We are at 25 countries right now in the partnerships. How do we get to the 200? We need every country in the globe part of the GIMI network. We want every university to be part of the GIMI network. We want every government to embrace the frameworks, as Dubai government has done it, as well as we've seen frameworks coming out of the frameworks in Qatar, and we're seeing it in Colombia and other places. How do we do this across globally? And so the more we have ambitious targets and we got global goals, the more likely we're gonna try more and try harder. So stretch targets, aim high, and even if we go halfway, we did pretty well. So that's the mantra of GIMI for 2023. Aim higher. Okay. So with that, I want to welcome, I believe there are some new people to the group over here. At any moment, we have people coming from all over the world. And at any moment, some of those people are not present this week or next week, but collectively over the year, we have a very strong, powerful global community. I encourage each one of you to reach out to the other and collaborate, not just through GIMI, but directly to each other to get the maximum outputs and value for yourself, and add value, and ask yourself, how can I help GIMI even be a more powerful global network, driving standards around a mission, which is a good mission, I believe. So with that, Irila, I would like you to introduce our new speaker who's going to talk about education. Education has to change. The way we've been doing education for the last 1,000 years is a professor like me speaking, and a classroom of 100 students sitting there listening attentively, hopefully. And the professor feels like he's God or he's a guru, but the reality is you learn from your peers, you learn from people outside of the classroom. There are new ways to learn, there are new ways to get information, there are new ways to collaborate, the flipped classrooms and other things. And if we do not transform as academic institutions, we're going to get new institutions coming, which are going to completely change the way we learn things. Today, we got a speaker who's going to talk about that, how education is completely being transformed along with digital transformation and other things. So I would, if you're a professor at an old university, I would pay attention. If you are an entrepreneur and a startup expert, this is going to be an amazing opportunity for you to do something different. Today, Rodolfo Cremer is going to be speaking, and Irila, I would like you to introduce the speaker, and please let's get this presentation started.
Yes, I'd love to leave to Enrique the floor, since he has recommended strongly Mr. Rodolfo. It's a topic about education, but please, Enrique, feel free to give an introduction of Mr. Rodolfo.
Thank you, HP. Thank you, Irila. Yes, today, I'm very glad to introduce Rodolfo Cremer. He's not only Peruvian, but he's a good friend of mine. He's a great professional. He has a tremendous, marketing and academic experience at different levels. He's professor in different universities around the world. He's been leading universities in Peru. He's been leading his own marketing company, working with several companies, not only in Peru, but in the Latin region. He's also an independent board member at different groups in Peru. And now he's becoming an entrepreneur. He has introduced, and he's the co-founder and chief operating officer of the European Business and Digital School. And as HP mentioned, we have to introduce innovation at the education level. And now I will allow Rodolfo to introduce himself and share what he's doing, in innovation for the education sector. So please, Rodolfo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Enrique. Thank you, Hitendra. Thank you, each of the members that are here to attend this conversation. First, I need to start apologizing in advance because for any error or mistake in my communication in English, because it's not my native language, but I promise to do my best, and I hope it's good enough to make me understood. If you permit me, I would like to share a traditional PowerPoint, as normally teachers used to do, so I can help myself with an order in the ideas I want to share. I want to share with you, and I will love to leave a space at the end so we can construct some knowledge. I will just try to share some point of view regarding to education. So if you are watching the PowerPoint, if everything is okay and you are hearing me okay, I will go on. It's okay?
It's good.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, we have around 7 million of years of evolution until we get to the Homo smartphones, like I used to call it. Smartphones have changed and technology have changed very rapidly in an exponential curve, the way we do everything right now. As an introduction, I would like to share some topics. We are living now in an exponential side of the developing curve. We are in a time of disruption, and I will come to this a little bit later. New paradigms are emerging, and when a paradigms change, everything changes. So we go back to zero, and we got to start again. And this happens almost in every industry and in every sector. For example, in the taxi company, the biggest taxi company in the world have no taxis. And for example, the biggest accommodation provider or the biggest hotel in the world has no rooms and no facilities. So technology is enabling us to do many things that we haven't thought it before. For example, the biggest and largest company, a telco company, has no telco infrastructure. And for example, Zoom, we are getting connected right now by a communication company that is not a telco company. It was impossible to think about that some years before. The biggest and the most valuable retailer in the world has no inventory, and it's able to put things in our home in a few days and has no inventory. So the rules are being reinvented, and the most popular and biggest media company is not producing content. Content is being produced by the people. No, the biggest bank is not making transactions with money as we used to know. We are using electronic money, and banks has no offices and no big buildings and big assets, and we're making transactions in cryptocurrencies. This was almost impossible to think some years before. And the largest and biggest movie company has no cinemas, and they are producing films all over the world in different language, and they are letting the producer get in contact with the audience directly. And the largest software vendor is not writing the apps. It's only a channel that is putting in contact the producer and the manufacturer with the customer directly. So there are many changes, as the evidence shows us, that technology has produced an impact in our lives right now. But I think there is one exception, and the exception is the education. We are really moving very similar from Bologna or Oxford when it started as education as we knew it in the way of transmitting the knowledge, and there are no many difference from those in the 12th century to the past or the last century, or almost to today. After the pandemic, we ran very fast to the face-to-face classes and to do the things that the same way we have been doing them maybe for the last 1,000 years, no? So we are almost doing education as in the same way it has been done.
The pictures.
Sorry?
No, it's good. Sorry, carry on.
Okay, so if we look to the curve of change, we always expect that the change is a linear factor, is predictable. After a while of time advance, we think that it has a different angle, so it's a little bit faster, but it's predictable. But change is not predictable. When a paradigm change, it's an exponential curve. And in my opinion, we are right now, and with the pandemic situation that we are, I hope, passing on, I think we are getting into the exponential part of the change. And as we said, we need around 66 days to change an habit. But we have more than 1,000 days of a completely disruption change in everything, in every activity we made. And this pandemic changed all the habits and the behavior as a customers that we have. And the pandemic has accelerated this disruption. So in my opinion, right now, we are in the upper side of the curve where change is exponential and things are moving very fast, maybe faster than we can predict. And if the paradigm have changed, we need to establish new paradigms. Not the old way of doing things is not useful in these new times. So we have experienced pandemics before, but not with the amount of technology in our life as we have experienced in the last 2 or 3 years. So getting back to education, we have moved from this, and suddenly we move from this kind of classes, face-to-face classes, to these empty schools, just immediately. And then we have to run very fast to technology and do the best we can, the best we could, and try to learn in the process. And we discovered that we can experience learning from different places and in different ways, even from a park bench. Now we can learn everywhere in any device. It's like a martini. It's good everywhere, anytime, and any place. No, it's technology has been a disruptor for education also. And where is education going? Where is education moving? I want to take 2 or 3 important trends, and I'm going back to Peru, to my native country, but it is the same in every country. It is the same in every world, with more or less some small difference of the years. For example, in 1950, the life expectancy of a Peruvian was 43 years. That's why in my country, family used to have around 8 or 9 or 10 children, because many of those children, unfortunately, will die. And the average will be 43 years. In 1950, just behind a Peruvian or a Latin American or even a Spanish people, will live around 43, 45 years. But life expectancy has grown very fast, and it has rose to 77 years right now. It's 34 more years, or 80% more right now. So if you are a kid, if you have around 12 or 16 years, in the early 50s, you will have to decide, with the 40% of your life advanced, you have to decide what you will do in the next 60% of your life. But now almost with that 20% of your life, you have to decide what you will do in the 80 other percent of your life. And this life expectancy is growing it's rising very fast. So we expect people will live more over 100 years in the near future. The other important trend is that knowledge is doubling very fast. We are producing knowledge very fast. In the early 19th, we need around 100 years to double the knowledge. In the past century, in the early 50s, we need around 25 years to double the knowledge. It's around, right now, we need around 2 years to double the amount of knowledge. So if we get only both two concepts, we are living more and we are generating a very huge amount of knowledge. So, and the third important trend is that we need different skills to face the challenge that life will put on for being a citizens in this future. And there are 4 important topics. We need to get the problem-solving ability. We need to manage ourselves. We need to develop abilities to communicate and to work in teams with other people. And we need, of course, abilities to work with technology and to develop. And the World Economic Forums had reduced this to some important skills that we will need to be employable and to have a job in this 21st century. We need analytical thinking, we need learning strategies, we need the responsibility to be our own learner. We don't need to be taught, we need to learn. That is different. We need to learn by ourselves. We need to solve and understand complex situations. We need to have critical thinking and analysis. We need to have creativity. We need to have initiative and creativity and imagination to create new things for this new world. We need to have leadership and social influence. We need to have the ability to work in teams, in teams with people from any part of the world. We need to use technology. We need to control. We need to monitor and control what we do. We need to be resilient because making mistakes is part of life. It's part of learning process. Making mistakes is part of the learning process, and we need to be stress tolerant and be very flexible to try another ways or another way of doing things. And we need to be resonant and solve problems and imagine new ways of solving all the new problems we're going to face. With these new elements, where is education going, or where education should be going? That is not the same. The traditional belief is that the teacher has all the information, and the new belief is that information is here for us and to share it. The job of the teacher, the old job of the teacher is to transmit the knowledge. But now the job of the teacher is not the fount of all the knowledge. The teacher is responsible of your learning in the old pattern. In the new pattern, the student is the responsible of the learning process. In the old pattern, the teacher is the teacher's job is to make sure that you make your job. But now the responsibility is of the student, and the teacher only have to facilitate this learning process, giving some resources, giving some curiosity questions. So the teacher is a co-learner with the student, and the teacher has the expertise in the old pattern to make the right decision for your learning process. But in the new education, the teacher need to trust the student, and the student responsibility to be their own learning and their own responsible of this process. What are the main changes in education? And I will focus not in the traditional. I will just want to focus on the modern education. We have now unlimited learning opportunities through technology. Students can study 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year, anytime, anywhere, any device. We move from teacher-dependent to student-centric. And this is not, I don't know how to say that in English, but this is not a claim, because it's very nice. Many schools said that we're focused on the students, but then we make classes in the traditional way. That's not what we're proposing. Student-centric means students are responsible. And there are some schools that are not using teachers to teach. They are putting teachers just watching behind the shoulder of the student and accompanying this process, this learning process. Learning have to be interactive, two-way interactive. And technology can help to have an interactive learning process. Learning is a progressive, it's less structure, and we need flexible rules. There are many ways to learn. There's not only one way to teach and to learn. There are many ways to learn. We are moving to a skill-based practical employability. We need to develop skills. We need to be employable. We don't need to repeat the test as the teacher show us. And we don't have to have a best grade if we repeat it more closer to what the teacher said. We need to be trained to solve problems that we have not been trained in the past. We need the ability to create new solutions, not old answers to the same old problems. And finally, we need to focus on constructing knowledge, sharing knowledge, and having new methods like inquiry, think, to apply, to build, and to solve. We need to evaluate those capabilities of the student. And if we introduce the e-learning, it has, of course, some advantages and some disadvantages. The advantage of introducing the e-learning is that it is affordability. It is very accessible to many students in all parts of the world. We share knowledge. We provide anytime accessibility to course and materials with high quality, with high standard. We can add pedagogical benefits to this learning process. It's very cost effective for the learner. It's available to a global audience. It's unlimited access to the knowledge, and it's very helpful for instructors, but have some disadvantage. It's really very costly. It's not cheap. As many people could think that the online learning is cheap, I think that's a mistake. It's making a good quality online education is not costly cheap. You need to invest money. We need new skills in the teacher, and we need new skills, of course, in the students or in the learners. It has less social interaction, unless there are many platforms that could permit or facilitate different interactions, but is of course different than face-to-face, and in some way it has a lack of the immediate feedback. But of course, we can give also feedback using technology. And there is one more important evidence that the learning outcomes of the e-learning process is equal or superior or better than the face-to-face education if it is very well designed. There is no bad online education or good online education. As the same, there is no bad face-to-face education or good face-to-face education. It depends on how you design the learning process. If you design it very well, you can have very good learning outcomes using online or using face-to-face education. So with all this information, we decide to create a new business and school. And I will want to, if you permit me, I will like to share what we have done with this new business school in Barcelona. We create a business school. It's a private business school born in Barcelona, in Spain. And we are combining two verticals of education. We are focused on business and technology, because we think technology technology is impacting positive all the aspects of our life, also business. So that's why we decide to focus on business and technology. And we are providing 100% online education using a state-of-art platform. What's our purpose? We want to drive the professional growth of people, and we want them to make a positive and sustainable change in their life and in society. So, through quality and accessible, practical and applicable online education. We want to be recognized as a very innovative business school and a reference in the Spanish-speaking world. And we want to transform the life of people, the companies, and the society for good. What are the main aspects of our value proposition? We want the student to personalize himself, his learning path. So we decide to make like Lego pieces. We want to give the student Lego pieces. So he can construct, he can build with these Lego pieces anything he wants. So the school will be very flexible. The student will decide the path. We will give him the pieces, but these pieces could be articulated and scalable to get to a diploma or to a master, with providing a high quality standard of education that the student can apply immediately to solve his real problems in life, in his world, in his challenge of the job he's doing, or in his personal life, with very connected with the capacity or the ability to give a solution to the immediately problems he needs to solve. And we focus, I want to focus on what the differential factors of this new school, not in the traditional school. A student can choose the order or the sequence of the courses according to his needs and his professional interests. He will have to choose around 30% of elective courses. All the courses, any course is scalable to one superior program. And the student can start a master, but starting from one course. Every course the student takes will conduct to a different master. It has to be affordable or payable. As we saw, online education, it's cost effective, so it's accessible. So it is payable for the mid or the lowest segment of the society. We also invented a new way of payment. Traditional schools, you have to enroll and pay all the program. We were thinking, how can we make this accessible? So we decided to make this program with a monthly subscription. If you permit me, it's like Netflix, like paying for Netflix. You can, if you are paying for the program, if you are paying your subscription, you can study anything you want, with the flexibility of deciding the courses and constructing with those courses the path you want to make for yourself. And finally, we have a claim that says study seriously, not in serial. So we don't want mass education. We want personalized education. And you are the owner and you are the builder of your own educational path. So that's the main differential factors of this new business school we have created. And as a main ideas and conclusions, I would like to hear some opinions or some discrepancies also. We can think different, so of course it's very well welcome. I would like to hear you, and maybe we can discuss, and finally I will give some topics that, in my opinion, are the conclusions of this new way we have to face education.
Rodolfo, thank you very much for your presentation. If we can stop presenting, we can maybe get the heads on screen. That's wonderful.
Yes,
that was great. I think to a large extent, most of us have experienced what COVID did, and we started learning from home, or kids were learning from home, and we saw it. We also saw the dinosaur teachers, the teachers who said, I will never use technology. They were forced to use technology. And every high school teacher, every grade school teacher learned to use Google Classroom and other ways to start teaching. And a lot of ideas came on how to teach better, how to teach effectively, how to do things with the new technology which was out there. So I think the wave has started, without a doubt. The wave has started that you can learn from anywhere at any time, at the speed that you want to, and other things. I've got a couple of real structural issues that I want to bring up, structural issues. The first one is professors. Professors don't like this. Professors are being commoditized. They get videotaped once, twice, 3 times, and they're done. We don't need them anymore. We can kind of get rid of them or pay them $50 versus paying them the salaries we were paying as professors on the long run. So there's a whole stakeholder that has been disintermediated out of this process, and potentially they're losing their value, and they may resist something on that, so that you may not get the highest quality of what you want. One. The second one is the students sometimes still wants a branded degree from Harvard, MIT, INSEAD, or somewhere else. And so they say, wait a second, what's the value of that? And how will those schools continue communicating their value when you are offering the same value proposition, but they are face-to-face or whatever and charging $80,000 per year for an education, right? So we got this issue on that. And the third one is the companies. When will the company recognize that your certificate is equally valuable as a certificate that is given from a school which is face-to-face? So those are 3 stakeholders. Stakeholder number 1 is the professor. Stakeholder number 2 is the university who's got the brand and the student who wants that brand. And the third one is the buyer of the product at the end. Your product is an employee into society. And when will corporations basically say Coursera or EDX or what you are offering are legitimate training programs, and they can compete side by side with a guy from Stanford? So I'm going to throw that out there as a starting point for conversation. While he's thinking about the questions, the rest of you in the audience, please write down your questions, put your hand up, and I'll call you up to take a question also, because Rodolfo is here to make us smarter.
Hitendra, that's why I don't want to make the conclusions, because you make a perfect conclusion. You were brilliant with your opinion. I agree completely. It is difficult for some teachers, but some other teachers see in this a very important opportunity to impact positively the people. And we are making accessible education. So I agree completely. You have high quality education at Harvard or MIT or many high reputation universities that are very expensive for an elite, but we need to make education affordable and accessible. So we are focused on another segment, and we are not dependent on the teachers, because one thing I learned in this process, because I'm learning here, we are taking the risk of making things different, and we can make mistakes, and we are that's part of the life, and we accept it. So, but one thing I learned, sometimes you have very good teachers and not so good teachers. In this online education, we make this a standard, and we have high quality education. It's not face to face, of course, but the quality is sure, is of control. I'm not dependable of bad teachers.
So Rodolfo, what you're probably saying is the best teachers will get much more attention online. The worst teachers will disappear. And
I hope so.
And so the number of teachers on the planet will get less and less, and will be concentrated to the gurus. And the gurus can be replicated on video, online, and other things on one side. So if you're a good professor, you have to rethink how you can brand yourself and be more valuable on this online digital environment.
If you want to take the opportunity, you should. A good professor should do that.
Yeah. So what Rodolfo is saying is, all of you professors out there, all of you professors, some of you are about to become dinosaurs, and some of you are going to really win big if you do this right. So let's go to the second question that I have, which is a question which is around the Harvards and the Stanfords, and we are seeing this in the United States in particular, are even becoming more and more powerful in their branding. But the schools which are not in the top 10 or top 20 are beginning to lose students, and they're beginning to go even bankrupt. So the bottom tier schools are going bankrupt. We're seeing that. But the top tier schools are getting stronger. For some reason, the brands are able to communicate the value of the brand of face-to-face or historical Oxford, Cambridge, Bocconi type of brands. And they are maintaining a power. And what is it that they are selling as valuable that you have not yet been able to communicate? We thought about that, saying that if you were to send your kids, where do you send your kids, preferably? And when will the shift come as a parent that I will send them to an online school over a top 30 branded school? What is the shift? What's needed to happen?
That's a fantastic question. I give you my personal opinion. And I will move toward the companies. Some companies, as Google, are hiring people with no degrees, are hiring people that have competences. And there are many ways you can develop a competence. So I think universities have to rethink the business. And I use the word business because talking about business is good. We need to have companies, and universities are companies that have to survive because they produce value to society, but they need to rethink the way they are producing value. I am a marketing guy, and for a marketing guy, brand is very important. And they have to use their brand to rethink the way they are doing business and to find some segments where their value proposition will give value, and rules are changing. If we want to face the new world with the old rules, it won't work. So I think that dinosaurs could survive if they get more agile and they change.
Yeah. So I've heard the same thing, that sometimes a certificate on programming, let's say something around SQL or programming around Python, that certificate generates a $30,000 to $50,000 of value on your salary increase. So now the question has to be asked: the certificate, whether it's a diploma or a certificate, if we were to put an XY axis and we talk about the cost of the certificate and the value we get is a salary increase as a result of that certificate, we will begin to see that some certificates are delivering even more value than a diploma.
For what you pay, yes.
Than a diploma, right? From a full university. So we do see that already happening. So there is disruption that companies are recognizing expertise, vertical expertise, versus what we used to think was the broad expertise of a university of learning liberal arts and history and religion and other things together. So do you think we'll always have a place for an environment for students to spend 4, 5, 6 years to stay young and stay and keep on learning about all the societal things? Or are we going to have technical schools which are narrow on business, narrow on programming, narrow on something, and that's what the digital schools are going to be, certification schools, while the other ones are saying, let my children go to New Hampshire and spend 7 years just playing, but as a result, they have a higher quality of life, perhaps?
Well, the first thing I think is that we don't need 4 or 5 years of study. We need around 18 years of study. We need to study all our life continuously. We need to study small topics, but continuously. We need to be a continuous learner. No matter if you are a Ph.D. or you haven't you don't have a degree in university. You need to keep learning. And in this learning process, there are 2 important topics. You need some certified knowledge, but you need to have some, they call them soft skills, but I don't like that word. I prefer essential skills or human skills. We are humans, so we need to be social. We need to have the ability of communicate, of teamwork, of imagine, of transmitting emotions, because we're humans. For the other, machines can replace us. So we need to have a balance.
Both. Rodolfo, I want to share, last year, GIMI put a program together to train 1,500 people across the country of Brazil. Brazil is a continent. It's not a country, it's a continent.
Yes.
Right? And we had cities in Amazonia and cities on the beaches from the north to the south, and people participated because of digital. And then to your point, it was the design. The design was critical to create the interactions. So what we did was we created teams of 5 to 8 students as pods. And we had to learn and share homework with each other and present to each other and give feedback to each other. And that was done with coaches making sure that they did the right thing in the right way. And behind that was visibility of a dashboard, which allowed gamification, saying who was first, second, who did the best presentation, and things like that. And those tools delivered a 97% outcome of all students finishing the program, and a student satisfaction, which was almost equivalent, if not better, than a face-to-face class.
Sure.
So I just want to first let you know that I think this is happening, and we also are believing on that revolution. And the way to spread this message globally is through that, so we can democratize education.
Hitendra, you make me remember when we were searching for launching a new university, we were searching new models of education. We found some strange schools. One of them was called École 42 in France. They teach programming. They teach technology. They have no teachers. It's a university. It's almost a university with no teachers. They just design a learning path, and students that don't learn in groups have to solve problems, and they learn by doing this, going through this learning path, and they have to solve the problem. They are prepared to solve problems without learning, and they learn by the way, and they have the teachers as coaches, watching them and helping them when they have questions or they have some trouble. But it's not a traditional way of teaching. For example, in this school, the students doesn't pay the tuition. They have only 1,000 students per year, but they have 60,000 students applying for this university. And who's paying for the tuition? The company that hired this student when he finished, because he's completely well trained to solve problems, because it was the sense of the learning process. So he learned technology, he learned programming, but he learned how to solve problems. So he is the ideal candidate to work in the companies today. And he developed all these skills that the company needs, that are not programming abilities, are solving problem abilities with programming. So we need to search these kind of schools, because there are some nice examples in the world, and I think education is a huge space to innovate the way we're doing things.
So Rodolfo, we're coming to the end of this session, and people signed up for an hour, so they'll probably have other plans. But I just want to summarize some things for the audience, and then I'll give you the last minute, okay?
Well, okay.
So you can think about what you would like to share. But I'm going to summarize your talk, so I'm going to use up a lot of your content. The first thing that I learned today, gentlemen and ladies across the world, is we're going to live longer. And if we're going to live longer, we're going to we will have to continue to be learning and improving and all that. So we have to do that. Behind that is there are new education models and learning models that are emerging that's going to make our life interesting and exciting. So if you're a consumer of knowledge and learning, it's going to happen. You don't have to worry about it. People like Rodolfo are going to make that happen, right? So that's going to happen. But if you are an entrepreneur, if you are an innovator, if you are in academia, if you are in industry trying to train your people, then you need to understand that there are new models emerging. And these models of learning are going to be increasingly around playing and having fun and interactions with other people in different ways that we're not imagined. But the learning will happen without us even sometimes knowing it. But it will be learning. That's the future. And that's what the schools are trying to do. There's going to be resistance from professors, traditional institutes, and also corporations who says that's not the right training that we need to do. Those are what we call in the last century, during the Industrial Revolution, Luddites or Luddites. They are the ones who held back the inevitable. The wave of the tsunami is here, it's coming. You can pretend it's not there, it's going to hit you. Now, for those of us who get excited by this thing, we see opportunity. Yes. Opportunity to create new types of courses, new types of business models, new types of learning. So lean forward, because this revolution of wanting to learn for our children or for ourselves is a human need. And this human need will be there whether you want to believe or not. It's a human need. And we will pay money for it, and we'll certainly invest in it. It's not going to go away. So with that, I think we have been inspired today, Rodolfo, by what you have said. And we would love to partner with you as GIMI to see how we can also take our content and spread it around the world with whatever learning experiences you have. We've got a lot of experience also in doing these things. Sure. Collaboration with you would be fantastic. But there's also an ecosystem of GIMI think tank members here who would love to interact with you. Please make sure you open your arms and embrace, not respect, embrace each other, the Latin style, and make sure that we can collaborate together, because we believe together we can. Rodolfo, you have the last word.
Thank you. If you permit me, please, for the last word, I would like to share the last slide. Here it is. Education should prepare citizens, good citizens, to be capable to solve problems which they have not been prepared. That's the main responsibility of education. And I want to end with a very old good quote of Confucius that says that the world will be for those who continue learning. Those who have already learned are prepared for a world that no longer exists. So we need to keep learning all our life. We need to make education accessible. I am really very honored to share these ideas and this inspiration that inspire us to make this school with you. And I want to end apologizing for any error or mistake in my English, because it's not my native language, but I hope it was good enough to make me understood by yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rodolfo. That was Rodolfo with the last word. And this brings our Global Innovation Management Institute's think tank webinar seminar, the first of the year, to an end. Thank you very much. Together, we can.